What do you do when it's snowing outside and you can't go out and play? You go to your local RC shop, of course. This place is great, they have so much stuff in stock. But I'm not looking for a plane. It's tiny trucks for me. I'm not quite sure what I'm looking for, but I'll know it when I see it. Jackpot! I'm gonna build the Axial SCX 10.3 base camp kit. My very first RC crawler was actually an Axial SCX 10. I bought it about 10 years ago, I'd say, and I still have it. About 5 years ago, I built an Axial SCX 10.2, and that one has a short wheelbase on it, so I could put a two-door Jeep body on it. I still have that one too. So first off with bag A is going to be the front and rear axles. Gotta get all these bags cut open and all my bits put in the little trays. I like to use the magnetic trays that you can get at Harbor Freight. They work really good for my RC projects. And they're cheap, so it's nice to save a penny where you can. The very first step is assembling the ring gear. There's two of these, and you want to add Loctite to all of your screws. Up next are the differential gears. After giving them a quick spin, I grease them up. And it looks good, everything's nice and smooth and it's turning freely. And then I put the diff covers on. And say hello to everybody's favorite tool when it comes to RCing. These battery-powered drivers are amazing. They make quick work of long threaded screws. Now that I've got my differentials complete, I'm going to move on to the axle shafts and the knuckles. And there you have it, a completed front and rear axle. Up next, I'm going to do the transmission. In the booklet, up next would be the shocks, but I skipped that because I'm using shocks from my Vanquish H10 optic kit because I put Desert Lizard shocks on my optic, and the shocks that came on the optic are 5mm shorter than the axial shocks that came with this kit, which would give me a lower center of gravity. So I'm going to use the optic shocks. I also have a video where I added the Desert Lizard shocks to my optic, and I added the incision drive shafts to my optic. If you're interested in watching that video, I'll put a link in the description. I put a little dab of Loctite on a scrap of plastic, and before I screw the screws in, I dab them in the Loctite. I do this anytime that I'm screwing in parts that are metal to metal. And I've just got to get these holes so that they're lined up just right. This kit has a lot of different size screws, and the nice thing about the manual is the screws that are pictured are actually the exact size that you're looking for. So I have a habit of lining things up and just checking to make sure that they're accurate, because there really are a lot of different screws in this kit, and I do the same thing with the bearings as I'm assembling the transmission. And next up for the motor, I went with the Hobbywing Fusion SE. It's a 2-in-1 motor. I've used the Hobbywing Fusion Pro quite a few times, but I've never used this one before, so we'll see how it goes. And we're moving on to the links. And after the links are the drive shafts. Alright, we're getting there. Here's where the fun stuff really starts to happen, and it starts to look more like a truck. Adding the links to the plates and the frame rails. I do the same thing with the links that I do with the screws and the bearings. I line them up to the picture to make sure that I have the right size, because some of them are really close, and I just want to make sure that I don't make a mistake. We're seeing a little progress. I'm putting a Savox Servo in this truck, and unfortunately it doesn't quite fit, so I have to make a slight adjustment. I have to snip off one of the cross braces on the bracket with the servo mounts. And unfortunately I was holding it backwards, so I snipped off the wrong one. I'm going to flip it over and snip off the correct one, but this is plenty rugged enough to hold the servo. It's not a big deal. Alright, look at all this progress. Unfortunately, my battery died on my camera, so I lost a little bit of footage here. It's a new day, and I have a new space. I have a brand new desk. The chassis is assembled and the links are on. And it's time to mount the motor and transmission. And with my new desk comes my very own new tool. The steering rod gets attached. And now it's time to add the axles and the drive shafts. This is where it really starts to come together and it looks more like a truck. I am so excited. When installing the drive shafts, you need to make sure that you have the little pin screws lined up with the holes. It can be a little tricky sometimes. Front axle and drive shafts are in. And now I'm attaching the steering to the chassis. Sometimes it would be helpful if I had a third hand. Now I'm going to install the front shocks, and I mentioned earlier that I'm using shocks from my Vanquish H10 Optic kit. I like these shocks better because I'll have a lower center of gravity than the shocks that come with the base camp kit. There are 5 holes where you can mount your front shocks. I like to mount mine in the top furthest back hole, and then you can adjust it later on if you need to once you get your body on, but that's my baseline where I like to start. Then I repeat that on the other side. And just like that, the front end is complete. All right, everybody, it's the final push. Time to put the rear axle in. Next is the rear drive shaft. And then the rear shocks. And it's time to install the battery tray. There's a couple of different locations where you can install the battery tray. I'm going to use a pickup truck body, and I want the battery underneath my back bed. Did it! It's done! I can put the wheels on.
Woohoo! Yay!
I have a Proline Toyota Hilux body that's already cut out and ready to go. I'm going to put that on it, and we're going to give this thing a try. Oh, I love it. This thing is awesome. It looks sick. When the weather is nice, I'm going to paint the body, and I'll do a video of that too. Okay, so I need to do a little trimming, but is this awesome or what? Well, we did it. She runs and drives. I'd call that another successful build. And I recently acquired an Arma Mojave Grom. If you're interested in seeing that out bashing in a skate park, stay tuned for more of my videos. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.